that are controlling the government and using it as a mechanism of piracy to feed upon the body politic. So those are some of the solutions.
Just realizing what's going on and thinking for yourself, pretty much.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's like somebody asked, for you to describe a beautiful vista, and it's like, well, man, you got to see it for yourself. Or somebody trying to describe a dead possum that's been hit by an 18-wheeler. I mean, hey, man, you've got to describe, you've got to see it for yourself. You've got to smell it for yourself. And so for the good, the bad, and the ugly, people just need to start realizing that there is a massive premium in the world on controlling ideas and the thought processes that are going on. And so that there is a Madison Avenue agenda, a psychological warfare attack in every sitcom, every drama, most of the big comic books, the children's cartoons. It is anti-freedom, anti-liberty messages universally, cynically everywhere. And people should start there, seeing how they're being bombarded, and they should be disgusted by it, instead of just sitting there and soaking it up and being willing zombies of this false state of reality.
So do you think like the people at Madison Avenue have a definite agenda outside of selling their products to people?
Absolutely. What is their product? Absolutely. I mean, it's come out that before Karl Rove and George Bush doing what they're doing, I mean, they're all just the latest management teams in there of Slavery Incorporated. Bill Clinton, I mean, most of the big sitcoms, the dramas, they have federal funding. I'm sure you've heard of product placement, where you hear somebody go, oh, I love Taco Bell in most movies or whatever, or I love Coca-Cola, or, I love whatever product it is. They have propaganda placement, and that's my term for it. And in 2002, $80 million was spent by the federal government in movies alone for propaganda placement. They call it product placement.
Those like particular ideas that they have.
And the feds get double their money. They passed a law that if they buy ads or stuff in print or stuff in the movie, they get double their money. So that's $160 million of propaganda. And in a big movie, it's just $300,000 to have several lines read or key billboard seen or your brand of pizza discussed. But instead it's, yeah, those people are kooks. They think the government might be corrupt, or, well, everybody knows that gun owners are bad and they're automatically abusive. And they know it's this whole agenda of guns are bad while the government's arming to the teeth against us. And then it's sold as this whole left-wing agenda. Oh, let's all be lovey-feely. But then the left-wing's happy to have Che Guevara in a picture with his AK-47, but it's bad for the American people to have guns. Would it be bad for an American Indian to have a gun? A Native American to have a gun? Oh, no, that's different. No, it's not different. It's the same thing today. And I don't want to run off with guns and have some physical war. The point is, guns are a canary in the coal mine. Guns are a sign of being free. A black slave couldn't own a gun. A white slave in Germany or in Gaul under the Romans couldn't have a sword. When you have a disarmed public, you have tyranny. It's just a fact of history. Kind of a jump off into other issues. Look at Larry Stern over there. Powerful warrior.
So what do you think the New World Order's next big move is going to be? Like the most visible move that Joe public could probably see for themselves without too much thought involved, I guess. I mean, is it going to be another terrorist act like 9/11?
There have been, yes. The Bali bombing, it turns out from the evidence, was globalist forces. The latest bombings in Saudi Arabia, globalist forces. I mean, this stuff actually comes out in the foreign papers, real evidence. Most of the bombings in England have been the British government. Most bombings in Israel are actually the Israeli government. They have founded Hamas. That's Harats admitting that. If you tell the average person, they go, that's insane. That's anti-Semitic. Oh, I guess Harats writing it, Jewish newspaper, they're anti-Semitic, Or you say the British government's behind terror. Oh, you're anti-British. No, we're against the corrupt people that run these governments and oppress their own people out of the terror they carry out in the name of protecting them. But certainly the government said, brace for biological, brace for chemical. We're going to have to take all your rights. It'll be a new way of life, but for your safety. It's freedom plus limits on that freedom. And that's what they've been trying to sell us. And they tried to deny that Patriot Act 2 even existed. Now they admit it. They tried to say, Patriot Act doesn't affect citizens or other crimes. Now they admit it's going to be for everybody. I mean, it's the end of America, the end of the Bill of Rights, the end of the Constitution. So the most visible thing, yes, is, as you said, more terrorism. Until the point that enough people understand that even if it wasn't the government or elements of the government carrying out terror, it's still the same things happening. They're doing nothing to stop terror and everything to use this to oppress us and control our lives. And the biggest thing that's happening is the biometrics, the thumb scanners going in the schools to get your school lunches, the thumb scanners going in the grocery stores, tearing out the normal checkout lines where you have service with a human being there, making you go to self-serve and then making you biometrically scan. DARPA, federal government, with the cameras and the RFID chips that are going to replace the barcode, which will track you everywhere you go and what you do. They're announcing satellite tracking and taxation to drive a car. Just this total surveillance package. In '96, they passed a law that all new cell phones by October 1st, 2001 would have to have a satellite tracking beacon in them. And I wrote and raved about this, and people would go, they call the show and go, that's insane. I go, well, here's the federal report. Here's the law. That's crazy. We'll never put up with that. And then September 11th comes, they go, oh, we're doing this now because of the terror attack. They passed a law in '96 for October 1st, 2001, right when they passed the Patriot Act and all that. And all the big cell phone makers were ready and put it in there. So now all the new cell phones track you down to just a few feet of where you're at. And they admit Homeland Security's dialed into that. Television Week, big industry trade magazine said, oh yeah, your digital cable, it watches what you watch, just like computer cookies. And Homeland Security can dial in through it and listen to what you're doing in your home. And OnStar, MSNBC reported, yeah, they really do work with Homeland Security, and they can tune in via the audio in your car and listen to what you're doing. That's Winston in 1984. You know, that's the telescreen. They're doing it, and it's always in the name of safety. We're going to protect you. You know, when they bust in people's houses and shoot old ladies to, quote, stop drugs. Again, they bring in the drugs to create the crisis. It's broken up on the street. It has a higher price because it is illegal. That causes there to be crime generated by the junkies that want to get it, and the crackheads that want to get it. They break in your house. You call for more cops, and then they run around in black ski masks oppressing the general public instead of stopping people that actually brought the drugs in to begin with. That's their bosses. This stuff's so overt. 3 years ago, the head of the New York Stock Exchange went down to meet with the Colombian communist guerrillas, the FARC, and said, this was in the newspaper, said, you invest your money with us, or we're going to have an invasion force come down there. And they said, you know what, we'll make our own drug money, thank you. That's about, a third of Colombia. Suddenly the invasion began, the spraying of the coca plants. But here's the problem. They're only doing it in the FARC areas. It's about a monopoly. The drug war is about a monopoly. It's about a monopoly of production and general massive distribution in the major pipeline. Then it's broken up to the lower level and uses the crisis to take over our freedoms. Just like the Boxer Rebellion. It's the same story with the British. How they got control of the ports, how they got control of the criminal gangs, how they got control of the roads, how they corrupted local officials. China would not let opium into their country. It was so destructive. And so they said, no, none of this. And the British knew that was a way to get in, so they used that to take the country over and then bring it down and break it up into 8 different pieces. This has been done before. And the Roosevelt family and others in this country owned the American distribution for the British East India Company and opium. And so after Prohibition, they knew that by making alcohol illegal, that would jack up the price and make them more profits. And they all, the Kennedys and the Roosevelts and all the rest of them, and the family up in Canada that owns Seagram's, they all understood that if they brought in a Prohibition, that would boost their profits. Then when the people revolted at the end of 9 years of Prohibition, they said, well, we got to do something. And the year after Prohibition ended, in came marijuana, reefer madness, got to bust the people, this laudanum that's always been sold in stores, and very low level of addiction in this country, opium being sold in the store. A kid could go buy it. We've got to outlaw that. We got to do all this because they were controlling those illegal drugs and wanted to continue that under-the-counter black market. And that's all we see here today is 70 years of the elite artificially increasing the price of a commodity they control, and then using it as a police state to enslave us on top of it, and packing the prisons full of workers in these quasi-public-private prisons, building little goodies, little widgets and such, and then good old boys say, well, we need to go ahead then and put everybody in prison. Great, I'm glad we got 7 million people in prison. Oh, wonderful, I'm proud of that. Stop the criminals. Wait a minute. make them criminals work. Oh, that criminal worked for 20 cents an hour competing against your job. That's why your job's gone. You're not just competing with Mexico or China.